This one lesson from betrayal will make you unstoppable, because the day someone breaks your trust is the day you finally stop depending on illusions. And the moment you stop expecting loyalty from a world that constantly changes, you become dangerous in a way pain can no longer control. Listen carefully. Most people think betrayal destroys them, but betrayal doesn't destroy you. It introduces you to the version of yourself that was sleeping, the version that trusted too easily, the version that ignored red flags because loneliness felt heavier than truth, the version that kept giving chances to people who had already chosen themselves over you long ago. And maybe you know exactly what I mean. Maybe someone smiled in your face while secretly competing with you. Maybe someone promised forever, then disappeared when life became inconvenient. Or maybe the person who hurt you the most was the one you defended when everyone warned you about them. That's the strange thing about betrayal. It rarely comes from enemies. It comes from people whose voices once felt like home. And when it happens, something inside you changes forever, not immediately. At first, it feels like grief, confusion, rage. Sleepless nights replaying conversations in your head like a courtroom trial where you keep searching for the exact moment everything collapsed. But then, if you survive that darkness correctly, you begin to see something most people never understand. Betrayal was never only pain, it was revelation. As Carl Jung once said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. And betrayal forces you to face yours, because the real lesson is not that people can hurt you. The real lesson is discovering who you become after they do. And by the end of this video, you may realize the worst thing that ever happened to you was also the moment you became unstoppable. Part 1. The day your illusions die. There's a moment after betrayal that nobody prepares you for. It's not the argument, not the lies, not even the goodbye. It's the silence afterward. The terrifying silence where your mind starts connecting pieces you ignored for months, maybe years. Suddenly, old conversations sound different. Certain looks make sense now. Moments you once called overthinking begin revealing themselves as intuition you abandoned in order to keep the peace. And that realization hurts more than betrayal itself. Because deep down, many people already sense the truth. They just hoped love, loyalty, friendship, or sacrifice would somehow change another person's nature. But human beings rarely betray you suddenly. Most betrayals are simply truths that were hidden long enough to feel shocking. The Roman emperor and philosopher once wrote, "Begin each day by telling yourself, 'Today I shall meet with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty.'" Not because he was pessimistic, but because he understood something powerful. Suffering becomes unbearable when reality violates your fantasy of how people should behave. And maybe that was your mistake too. You expected honesty from someone who only valued convenience. You expected loyalty from someone addicted to attention. You expected depth from someone terrified of self-awareness. Betrayal forces you to stop romanticizing people. And strangely, that's the beginning of freedom. Because once illusions die, clarity is born. You stop chasing closure from people incapable of giving it. You stop begging for explanations from those who already revealed their character through actions. You stop confusing attachment with connection. This is the first lesson betrayal teaches. See people clearly, not through loneliness, not through hope, not through potential, but through patterns. Because the unstoppable version of you begins the moment you finally accept reality without trying to edit it emotionally. And that truth changes everything. Part 2. Betrayal forces you to meet your real self. Pain has a strange way of removing distractions. Before betrayal, you were busy trying to keep everything together, trying to be understood, trying to be loved. trying to hold on to people who were already emotionally leaving you long before they physically disappeared. But betrayal interrupts that illusion violently. It strips away comfort. And once comfort disappears, truth becomes impossible to ignore. That's why some of the strongest people you will ever meet were once shattered human beings. Because suffering introduces you to parts of yourself comfort never could. Think about it. Before the betrayal, maybe you tolerated disrespect just to avoid abandonment. Maybe you stayed quiet because you feared conflict. Maybe you made yourself smaller so others could feel secure around you. But pain changes the architecture of a person. One night, after enough disappointment, something inside you says, "No more." And that moment is sacred, because that is the birth of self-respect. Once said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." Betrayal forces you to discover your why. Not the version of life built around pleasing others, but the version rooted in your own identity. This is why many people experience their greatest transformation after heartbreak, rejection, or deception. The gym becomes therapy, loneliness becomes reflection, silence becomes self-awareness. The same pain that once destroyed your confidence slowly becomes fuel. And the terrifying part, the people who betrayed you often never expected this transformation. They expected you to remain weak, dependent, emotionally attached to their validation, but betrayal teaches independence in the harshest possible way. It teaches you how to sit alone without needing constant reassurance, how to rebuild yourself privately, how to stop seeking your worth through other people's inconsistent affection, and eventually, one morning, you wake up realizing something shocking. You survived the thing you thought would destroy you. That realization changes your psychology forever, because once a human being survives emotional death, they stop fearing many things. Suddenly, rejection loses power, loneliness loses power, even failure loses power. Why? Because you already endured the collapse of trust itself. And when a person learns they can survive that kind of darkness, they become emotionally dangerous in the best possible way. Not cruel, not cold, just unbreakable. Part 3. The painful pattern most people never notice. It began with what you were willing to ignore. This is the lesson nobody wants to hear. Not every betrayal is preventable. Some people deceive masterfully. Some wounds arrive without warning. But many betrayals leave clues long before the damage happens. Tiny moments, small discomforts, red flags your intuition noticed while your emotions begged you to stay blind. And this is where the cycle begins. Because human beings are not only attached to people, they are attached to familiar emotional patterns. A person who fears abandonment may tolerate disrespect just to avoid being alone. A person who never felt valued may overgive in relationships, hoping loyalty can be earned through sacrifice. And a person starving for connection may mistake attention for love. That's why betrayal repeats. Not because you are cursed, but because unhealed wounds silently choose familiar pain. Said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Read that again carefully. Many people call it bad luck, when in reality, they are unconsciously repeating the same emotional story with different faces, different friend, different partner, same outcome. Because the real danger was never only toxic people. The real danger was ignoring yourself, ignoring your boundaries, ignoring your intuition, ignoring the exhaustion you felt around certain individuals because you were afraid of disappointing them. Betrayal teaches a brutal but necessary truth. If you abandon yourself long enough, eventually others will too. And maybe that sentence hurts. But it is also liberating, because it means your future changes the moment your standards change. The unstoppable person is not someone who never gets betrayed again. That's impossible. The unstoppable person is someone who learns faster, Someone who notices energy before words, patterns before promises, actions before apologies. They stop trying to rescue people who refuse accountability. They stop confusing chemistry with compatibility. And most importantly, they stop negotiating their self-worth for temporary emotional comfort. This is why betrayal can become wisdom instead of bitterness. Bitterness says nobody can be trusted. Wisdom says trust must be earned slowly. There is a difference. One destroys your future, the other protects it. And once you understand that difference, you stop becoming a victim of repeated emotional wars. You begin choosing peace over emotional addiction. And that is where real power begins. Part 4. The final lesson. Become someone pain can no longer control. At first, after betrayal, most people fantasize about one thing: justice. They want the betrayer to feel the same pain, the same sleepless nights, the same confusion, the same emotional collapse. And for a while that anger feels powerful, but eventually something deeper happens inside people who truly heal. They realize revenge still keeps them emotionally chained to the person who hurt them. Because when someone controls your peace, even through hatred, they still control part of your life. And that is why the final lesson of betrayal is the hardest one. You must stop building your emotional world around people who failed to protect your heart. This is where transformation becomes complete. Not when you become colder, not when you stop loving, not when you isolate yourself from humanity, but when you finally understand that your peace cannot depend on external loyalty alone. Once said, the more we value things outside our control, the less control we have. And betrayal proves this brutally. You cannot control honesty. You cannot control loyalty. You cannot control whether another person chooses selfishness over integrity. But you can control your response. You can control your standards, your boundaries, your healing, your discipline, your future. This is why some people remain trapped in betrayal for decades, while others use it as fuel for rebirth. One person spends years replaying memories. The other quietly rebuilds their life until the pain becomes unrecognizable. And one day, something unexpected happens. The betrayal that once haunted you becomes small. Not because it was meaningless, but because you finally became larger than it. You start protecting your energy differently. You stop forcing connections. You stop explaining your worth to people committed to misunderstanding you. And perhaps the greatest transformation of all, you no longer fear betrayal the same way, because now you understand something most people never learn. Your strength was never in being protected from pain. Your strength was in surviving it without losing your soul. That is what makes a person unstoppable. Not arrogance, not emotional numbness, not pretending not to care, but the ability to experience deep pain and still remain wise enough to love life again. That is rare, and if you are listening to this right now, maybe betrayal did not arrive in your life to destroy you. Maybe it arrived to remove illusions, awaken your standards, and force you to meet the strongest version of yourself, the version that no longer chases validation, the version that trusts actions over words, the version that walks away from disrespect without guilt, the version that understands peace is more valuable than attachment. Because sometimes the darkest betrayal carries the greatest lesson, and sometimes the moment your heart breaks is the exact moment your real life begins. So if betrayal changed you, good. Not into someone cruel, not into someone bitter, but into someone conscious, someone who now understands that blind trust is not virtue. Awareness is. Carry the lesson, not the wound. And remember this, the people who betrayed you may have changed your life forever, but they do not deserve ownership of your future. If this video spoke to something deep inside you, leave a comment with the word unstoppable. Because healing begins the moment you decide your pain will become wisdom instead of identity.